Hello, Home Slices. It's Kiara with Home Slice Adulting coming to you with my review for Love and Marriage Huntsville, Season 1, Episode 9. Now, this is the second half of Season 1. I was under the impression it would be Season 2, but no, it is the second half of Season 1 after they took a mid-season break. So first off, thank you for clicking on this video. Do not forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Also, for those of you who are new to my channel, my voice usually isn't like this, but I'm actually sick today. So I took a sick day from work, and I've been promising that I was going to post more reviews on my channel. I had kind of been really busy lately and not able to post as many things as I wanted. But I did say that once Love and Marriage Huntsville came back on, that I was going to start reviewing it again. So I'm fulfilling my promise on my sick day, and that's why I sound like a man. So anyways, don't forget to share this video if you enjoy it, and let's just dive into the meat and potatoes. So the way I'm going to do this video is that I'm going to watch part of the show up until a commercial break and then come to you all with my thoughts, okay? So first off, we got to kind of recap who everybody is. We have three main couples who are a part of this TV show. We have Marceau and Tisha. Marceau is came off as a shameless misogynist who did not want his wife Tisha to have a career. Basically, he wanted her to be at home while he made all of the money, and he kind of had a little bit of a change of heart towards the end of at the end of the previous episode before the postseason break. Next, we have Maurice and Kimmy, who are actually newly married. They got married towards the end of the, I don't know how to call that. Right now, the episode for the new part after this mid-season break is episode 9. So in the last episodes that we saw Maurice and Kimmy get married. So they are newlyweds. I want to say that they are my favorite couple. I really like Kimmy. Kimmy is a career woman, was a single mom. She and Maurice, were they dating for a really long time before he asked her to marry him? It was the number of years felt like a really long time, if I remember correctly. But anyways, lastly, we have our final couple who, interestingly enough, started off the entire series as if they were the perfect couple. And from episode 1 to episode 8, that deteriorated so much. Okay. So we found out that there was some infidelity in their marriage, and the saga continues now that the mid-season break is over. So now that we've done like a little recap of who is who, we're going to dive into what this episode is about. So we have Marceau and Tisha. They are now a household that has two incomes with two working parents. They have three children, two girls and a boy. And Marceau has opened his mind a little bit, but you can tell it's not really open all the way. I think that the fact that she got him the job building that building, was it a hotel that he was building? And it was like a large sum of money. Was it like $6 million contract? Something like that. Something along those lines. I think that was his way of conceding because she was the person who got him that job. And maybe the magic of that is kind of wearing off a little bit. And the problem is that Marceau expects Tisha to do everything that she was doing before for their household and for their children with like 50% less time, because her time is also going to other things that she is doing, like her work, and apparently she is taking like leadership classes as well. And the problem is that she has less time to take care of the kids in the house. And instead of Marceau saying, you know what, I don't do anything around the house, basically, let me make sure that I cook dinner, or let me make sure that I take our kids to the doctor. Instead of him trying to compensate for the areas which she, can't really take care of anymore, his thought is that, it comes off as if his work is more important than hers. And while I can get where, some people will say, well, he's definitely making more money than she was because he was the sole breadwinner just, 6 months ago. And, as the father, they usually don't take a huge role in the kids' lives. Traditionally, I think that it's important for him not to just bend on the area where, hey, my wife has a job now, but he also needs to bend in the area of where, like, I need to help her out more. So, he's getting there, but he's not there yet. And anybody else? Well, I'm sure everybody else caught how reluctant he was to tell his wife where he was going. I mean, she's like, hey, where's your job at? And he's like, oh, it can be in North Carolina, South Carolina, but, today I'm going to Tennessee. And it's like, why did you have to beat around the bush like that? So we know it's going to come out later on in this, in the upcoming episodes that Marcel was not faithful to Tisha either. But I think we already kind of suspected that. Anyways, let's move on to Maurice and Kimmy. So we see them at a safari, but it's not their real honeymoon. It's a safari place in Huntsville. There are quite a few places around America that you can drive through and feed animals. I've never been to one like that. I've been to one where you like park your car and they take you on these safari wagons to feed animals, not where you drive through yourself. And it's actually great. It's wonderful. I had a good time, but it's not a honeymoon. I mean, come on. So one thing that I hadn't really considered is that when you are older and you get married, maybe taking a honeymoon isn't as high on the priority list. I mean, my thought is you get married and then right away you take 2 weeks or however long to have a honeymoon, right? But they are older. He is in school. They have kids. Maybe the timing didn't really work out. And so Kimmy wants to, you know, go in the following month on a real honeymoon. And he's like, I have school, I have stuff. And she's like, there's always going to be a reason not to do something. And she, makes it clear that she doesn't feel like this is really a priority for him. And I think Maurice needs to make the time. So figure it out, son. Okay. Anyways, around what? Martell and Melody, y'all. Okay, so the last time we saw them, Martell got injured at a at a like pickup football game and tore his Achilles or something like that. And y'all, when I tell him that I have never seen anybody swindle somebody so fast, he was in the hospital room talking to Melody, basically saying, Melody, he was under the influence of the narcotics that they gave him before he was going to take his surgery, before he was going to do his surgery, but he was telling her how much he loved her and how he was going to make things right. And just like that, she went from like, I'm about to get a divorce to like, oh, we good again. Like that's that's basically how it went. And so Melody told us that after the surgery happened, they was on the right track, things were going well until they were on a road trip. Martell gets a phone call from a private number. She says that she answered and it was a woman. Now, Martell goes to a therapist. Y'all, the therapist, I feel like he was qualified, all that stuff. But y'all saw how there was like a paper sign on the door. I don't know. I don't know if somebody just threw that up there. I don't know. But like, you try not to judge a book by its cover, but things are like shady when the sign outside your business establishment is like a paper sign that you like taped up. But anyways, so according to Martell, when he talks to the counselor, it's very interesting because Martell said he hasn't talked to Melody about going to counseling just yet because he wants to get himself right. My thought is that he wants to get extra credit for taking the initiative to go to counseling. And it doesn't feel like he's doing it to actually fix something within himself and find out more about himself. It feels like he's going so that he can tell Melody what she wants to hear. That's the way I feel about it, because he didn't go. And y'all, excuse me, I'm gonna be sipping some tea from one of my mugs. For those of you who don't know, I have a online store where I sell mugs, t-shirts, and tote bags that have body positive phrases on them. And this is one of my mugs here, my substantial mug, because all women are substantial. And this is green tea with honey. But anyways, if you want to check out any of my merchandise, go to biggirlbody.com. And if you sign up for the newsletter, you can get a discount code. So, moving on. What was I even talking about? Martell. So when Martell told the story to the counselor, right? Martell says that a private phone number came through, and he was like, it was like, damn if you do, damn if you don't, right? If you don't answer the phone, she's going to be suspicious. If you do answer the phone, she's going to figure out who it is. He claims that he hadn't been in touch with his mistress for months, 5 months. He went cold turkey. And that magically she popped back up basically at the wrong time. They were on a road trip. They trapped inside a moving vehicle together. There is no way he could avoid Melody finding out what was happening. And so he wants us to believe, and the psychiatrist or psychologist to believe, that she just magically kind of popped back into his life. And from what he told the counselor, it came off as if he went 5 months cold turkey. One time she called and he answered, and that he had begun communicating with her again. But I feel like the story he told the counselor is not the same story that he told in his confessional to us. So I feel like he was definitely in touch with her. I feel like the mistress was calling because she felt like she could call, because she had been calling for at least a little while and communicating with Martell. And Melody is kind of taking steps towards divorce, because we see her step into a divorce attorney's office. I have the privilege of never having been married to somebody. Like, me and my boyfriend have been talking about marriage, and hopefully that's, around the corner for us. But as far as commitment wise, I mean, we live together, but we don't have children together. We haven't built like an empire together like what they are doing now. We don't have, other areas of our lives so tied up that we couldn't make a more clean break. So I don't want to sound like I'm being I don't, because I don't have that type of stake in my relationship right now. It's very difficult for me to say, like, for instance, I can say, oh, I would have broke up with Marcel and divorced his behind years ago, when I don't have the type of connection and relationship that she has to Martell. So I understand that getting divorced is a challenging decision to make. But I feel like Melody is not going to go through with it. Even if Martell gave her a number of more reasons. Excuse me, y'all. Even if Martell cheated on her a million more times, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know that she would divorce him. And I'm wondering if she's doing this to show that she's a strong woman to us, or if she really means it. Y'all talked a long time. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next portion of the show, and I'm going to call back when I am ready to tell you all what I think about the next part. All right, y'all. So I am back. More of Martell and Melody. Okay, so let's talk about Melody first. Melody is not happy in her relationship, but she starts to get happy when she sees how many options she has with this divorce. Okay, so the divorce attorney is telling her about how things work once you get a divorce. And he says, oh, after you've been married for 10 years in Alabama, now you can start dipping into each other's retirement accounts. So that makes her happy. Also, um, uh, she learns that she can have Martell deposed in during the deposition. They can call witnesses. So Melody gets excited about that, about being able to call the mistress as a witness. Okay, uh, I think Melody is in a very like. Of course, she's in a raw state because of how her marriage is going. But I also think that she's like in revenge mode. So I hope she doesn't make any rash decisions and that she really takes into account how, if she actually files for divorce, that she would be setting the tone for how things go. And I think that's important. Now that I think about it, when somebody files for divorce, the way in which they do it, the manner in which they do it, their motives behind why they're doing it really does impact how well or how horrible it goes. And it sounds weird to say that divorces go well for some people, but for some people they do. So anyways, I really hope that she considers how going about this can really affect the outcome. Excuse me. So next, y'all, Martell blames everybody but himself for cheating. And remember how I was saying earlier about how Martell didn't really come to the counselor to really work on himself. He came to get brownie points with his wife, and that he hadn't really considered the actual root of why he was cheating. And I think the counselor did a good job at getting to the root of it. Y'all, I like the counselor, even though he has like the paper taped to the door, for his business. I think he did a good job. He did great because he really did get Martell to realize. Martell blamed everybody else but himself. Martell said, "Well, I was hanging out with people who were cheating, and they got me into cheating. Melody wasn't giving me this, so Melody forced my hand." And it's like, Martell, you're a grown man. And one of the things that the counselor hold him accountable for, and I think that everyone needs to hold, people who are people who betray their trust by cheating on their partners, is that everybody has a responsibility for self-governance, self-discipline. If you don't put yourself in situations where you think you're going to cheat or where you're thinking about cheating, if you make conscious decisions about who you hang around, where you go, what type of activities are a part of, then you can avoid and resist the temptation. But you're a grown man. You have the ability to choose your friends. So even if your friends were a bad influence on you, you have the ability to hang out with other people, right? Or like stay at home with your wife and kids. You have that choice to make. You can go to counseling with your wife if there are things that are in your relationship that, before it gets to the point where you're cheating. You have the ability to make changes in these areas. And the fact that you're blaming everybody but yourself for not taking enough responsibility and accountability for your own actions, it's like almost disgusting. Like he's probably 40-ish. You're a grown man. Nobody can make you do anything. Nobody held a gun to his head, making him cheat on his wife. He needs to take responsibility for his own actions, and I think the counselor really held him accountable in a way that I don't think he was expecting. Anyways, Martell basically said it wasn't anything that Melody wasn't giving me. It's just that I wanted more. Hence, he was just being greedy. Was his excuse, and well, I think that he felt that way. And I think that that was a true statement for him. I don't think that that's all of it. Yeah, I don't think that's all of it. But anyways, oh, and then the counselor also talked about how self-study is the most important study, and how he had studied his own wife, and when things started to go poorly, because he only really knew about his wife, he started to blame her, but he didn't think about his own responsibility in those things. And I was like, that's real good. That's some Iyanla fix my life, level stuff there. That, knowing who you are is the best way to know your interpersonal connection and communication with somebody else. And he was saying how like we get caught up in appearances, how everything has to look good. We go to church, we have businesses, we do this, we do that, and it's not really, not really knowing what's going on behind the scenes. And but that's the things that marriage are actually built off of. And like take your focus off of all the energy you use to make your relationship look good and use that energy towards improving your communication. But anyways, Martell, this is the last thing I'm gonna talk about right now. Martell called the other woman, the mistress, a peasant. Martell is the most disrespectful. Look, I'm not here. I'm not caping for the mistress. I'm not, because like that's one thing I can't stand. It's clear to me that the mistress knew that Martell was married. Even if she didn't know right away, she knew at some point because Melody found out over a year ago. So the mistress, of course, has a part in this wrongdoing. Overall, the problem with Martell calling her a peasant is that she clearly wasn't a peasant if you were messing around with her for 3 years. Why would you do that? And then the fact that he called her a peasant makes me believe that he spent money on her so that he improved the quality of her life by spending money on her, which to me adds insult to injury when you're cheating on somebody, right? And then also, it makes him look bad to say that she's a peasant. I really don't get it. I think it's disrespectful. And I think that he has disrespected the mistress as a woman in this instance, as opposed to uplifting his wife. And it's funny because the counselor kind of had to suspend his disbelief, and he was like, "Did you really say that?" The counselor was like, "Did you really say that?" And then he was like, "So if indeed you thought she was a peasant, a person of low class, what is it that she gave you that your wife couldn't give you, or that your wife didn't have the capacity to give you?" And he don't even know. I don't think he thought she was a peasant. I think that she offered something. You know how like some women like thugs. I feel like the mistress was the equivalent to that for him. I don't know what the equivalent would be. Maybe some hood chick. I don't know. Maybe she had this edge that Melody doesn't have. Melody comes across as very prim, proper, bougie, if you will. And maybe this hood chick who really didn't have a lot going for her financially or, maybe even education wise, offered this type of experience that was different from his experience with Melody. That's my best guess right now. But so the counselor says, "All right, we're gonna have you come back a few times, and then we're gonna bring your wife in so we can have a talk about this interpersonal communication." I don't believe Martell will bring Melody with him, but we'll see. All right, y'all. So we're back. So I have a number of thoughts about this mimosas with Mel situation, and I'm gonna try to condense them. Okay, so the mimosas with Mel thing came off to me as very self-serving. It came off of to me as a way for her to make money off of her marital issues, which, depending on who you talk to, isn't right. I'm not as concerned with that part. It's the part I'm concerned about is that Mel is not in a place, in my opinion, to be encouraging to other women regarding infidelity in their relationships. It came across to me is, do you know how men make these stupid statements about how women just get together and cry and talk mess about their husbands and all that kind of stuff? That's the way it came across to me, when I feel like women don't necessarily do that, but this came across as an event where women get together to do that. Again, I don't know what was on the agenda for the whole thing. I don't know if there was a relationship expert or therapist that maybe came to talk to people afterwards. It came across to me as if Mel literally had that little white cushiony throne at the front, And basically she's like the queen of all the people who got cheated on, and she is sitting there talking about her experiences being a I mean, the first question when she opened up the Q&A was not was a question that only really applied to her, as opposed to all the women in the audience. How do you deal with being in the spotlight, running businesses, blah 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 blah. That's something that most of the women in the audience probably couldn't identify with. And then for Mel to say she feels like she's handling it well, don't know about that. Anyways, and then the second question, where the lady gets up and like can't even say that your husband cheated on you. She says you're after your husband did what he did. And we all know from Missy Yonla that you gotta name it and claim it, okay? If you can't even really speak the words, how can you really heal from it? But, anyways, I felt like the event came off as self serving, that she was using her marital problems to bolster herself. I don't know if women actually paid for tickets to this event or something like that, but if they did, there could be some monetary gain involved. And the third and most important reason why I didn't really care for the Mel and Mimosa's whole concept is because when somebody talks to you about their experience, I feel like they need to be on the other side of it. And this is just a personal preference. This is my channel, so I get to say, how I feel. Mel and Martell are not through dealing with the issues of infidelity in their relationship. Now, granted, with all the time that it takes to plan events, she could have thought, like when she planned this event, she could have thought that she was in a good place where they had actually gotten past all the infidelity issues. And then maybe that phone call that they got while, they were driving to Atlanta kind of derailed things. But until you are for sure through the storm of something like this, I don't think it's very wise to try to give advice to people. For her to sit in her confessional and say, I am the voice of women who have been cheated on. No, that's Mary J. Blige. Okay. Okay. No, the point is that if you were going to give advice to women, if you were going to be this source of encouragement, you need to have somebody at these events that is actually a certified relationship counselor, expert, psychiatrist, something along those lines to give legitimacy to your thing. And maybe she did and we just didn't see it. Also, you need to be on the other side of this whole situation. She is currently still dealing with infidelity stuff with Martell. Her relationship is still on the rocks. She is still in talks about getting a divorce and hasn't even filed yet. She is not on the other side of this whole situation, whether that's, with the legal proceedings, whether that's emotionally or whatever. She's not, in my opinion, she's not in a position to be giving advice and taking questions from people in similar situations because she hasn't come out the other side herself just yet. And I think that this also goes back to like the whole appearances thing because again, we thought that Martell and Melody were the perfect couple at the beginning of, season 1. And now we see that that's far from the truth because they were so caught up in appearances. And now Melody is still trying to appear as if she has it together. And I think it's important to note that having it all together in this instance is appearing broken. Because she can admit that she was broken, that she was heartbroken, that she, has issues. And the appearance, though, that she's giving is that, okay, everything's going to be okay, or everything is getting to the point of being okay. And that's not necessarily true. I feel like she should have really waited to come out on the other side of this, whether it was divorced, whether it was learning to trust again. She's too in the middle of all of the ruckus in her life, dealing with this infidelity, to actually be effective at helping other people. That's my position. And then afterwards, she talks to Kimmy. Her and Kimmy have a weird relationship. I don't want to say either one of them is wrong because I don't really know the details. Melody is, or Mel is throwing some shots a little bit about how oh, you didn't come to my first one, but oh, we'll have my second wedding here. Kimmy is like, what? But Kimmy does bring up the comeback group. And so she's like, oh, I think, we all need to get together. So that's a conversation that's coming up. And those conversations never go well. I'm with Melody that they should just dissolve it. Okay. Y'all dissolve it. And then y'all put another one together. The comeback group. And exclude the Holtz, okay? Because apparently y'all, the two other couples, have enough experience and expertise and all that jazz to do it without the Holtz, because the Holtz seem to be really holding them up. So, anyways, we'll see what happens. All right, real quick, we see Tisha. Is it Tisha or Tisha? I keep forgetting. We see Letitia and Kimmy sitting down. Apparently, one of their children, one of Tisha's children, is there in the office. And Kimmy had a point. The whole reason for her getting the job was so she didn't, to get away from the kids. And now the kids are at the office with her. You know, that comes off to me as like a more single parent type of thing where, if you don't have anybody to watch your kids, they might come to work with you. But you have two households, two incomes, pay for a babysitter or something, okay? Anyways, moving on. They spend the whole time gossiping, maybe, having a conversation about the inequalities in their relationship with Mel and how Mel doesn't really reciprocate a lot of the things that they would like for her to reciprocate, such as inviting them to events, responding to text messages, not putting negative things on social media about Marcel, because Tisha says, well, I can find a picture of Martell's, find a picture of Martell's mistress and put it on social media, but then I would be wrong. And so from the outside looking in, it does look like there are some inequalities in their relationship. And like in normal life, you just stop messing with that one person. But I think because they're on the show together, they feel like they have to kind of try to maintain some connection. And I don't necessarily think that's true. The easiest way to get somebody off the show is like alienate them, okay? Nobody wants to hang out with Melody. So alienate her. I'm not saying that she get them off the show because I keep calling her Melody, but her name might be Melanie. I'm not sure. Mel's drama with Martell is a big draw for the show. So it's not like they would be putting her off the show or anything. But like, if you're not really friends with somebody and they don't really do the things that you would like for them to do, you have a conversation with them. And if things don't change, then you move on. Stop talking to her. Don't film with her. All that jazz. So moving on. The only other thing I want to bring up is that Tisha said that she thinks Mel doesn't really mess with Kimmy and her because when all of them started to hang out together, which was like 3 or 4 years ago, that's the time when Martell hooked up with his mistress. Now remember, Martell said that he got into cheating because his friends that he was around were cheating. So now we're connecting the dots, okay? Because if Marceau was one of those people, right, that he was hanging around, Marceau is a cheater. See how they're trying to connect the dots? But Tisha don't even know she connecting the dots. I believe that Marceau is a cheater. I believe it. I believe it. So, Tisha connecting the dots on stuff she don't even realize she connecting the dots on, okay? So, anyways, I don't necessarily care for the way they kind of just sat around and talked about Mel. It did come off very gossipy and whatnot. But I'm not really caping for Mel either because she definitely does have some situations that are not equal in the way that she treats, her friends. So we about to wrap this up in a little bit. All right, so finally, we see Marcel and Maurice. They have a chat about Marcel's mother-in-law coming in or whatever. Interestingly enough, Maurice brought up the point that your mom moving in with you to help with the kids It's actually like a traditional value, so it should be okay with Marcel. And the fact that it's not is a little weird. But moving on, let's get to the coup de grace. Okay, so we have Martell and Mel having a conversation, and apparently Mel is kicking Martell out, and he's trying to weasel his way back to staying at home. And for whatever reason, she's still folding his clothes. That's weird, but maybe a force of habit. He's making excuses, and once again, it's about everybody but him. But he said, "I'm not gonna claim fault for this," when it's like clearly his fault that their marriage is on the rocks. And he's like, he's manipulative. It's very weird, and I think Mel is feeding into it a little too much because I think he's trying to bait her. She says she doesn't care anymore. She's leaving him because of the infidelity. She's leaving him because he has a bad attitude. He's a good father, but a terrible husband. And then she makes this really weird chicken noise when he said, what did he say? He said something about, oh, what's good for me has always been good for my family. And she was like, what? Since when is cheating on your wife for 3 years good for your family? It's never been that way. He does come off as a narcissist. He's very manipulative, and while I'm not sure if Mel will actually go through with the divorce, I definitely think that she should. So yeah, they really going through it. So y'all pray for them. Hopefully things get worked out. I don't think that they should stay together, but you know, who am I to say? Anyways, that has been my review of this episode of Love and Marriage Huntsville. It looks like next time Martell is going to take the rest of the cast down with him, talking about their cheating ways. So we'll see how all these accusations maybe deteriorate the other marriages on this show as well. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video with somebody who you think will like it. Peace out, home slices.